Imagine having it all: wealth, a perfect fiancé, and a life everyone envies. Now, picture losing it all in one unforgettable moment. That's exactly what happened to Sophia on her engagement night. As she prepared to announce her perfect future, her fiancé walked into the room, holding another woman's hand. Heartbroken and abandoned by her family, Sophia's world crumbled in front of a crowd. But just when she thought everything was lost, a stranger named Liam appeared, offering her something she had never experienced: real love. Who is Liam really, and can he heal her broken heart? This story is about betrayal, secrets, and the unexpected journey to finding true happiness. Can you imagine the grand ballroom of the St. Regis Hotel, shimmering like a dream under the golden glow of chandeliers? The air was heavy with the sweet scent of roses, the fizz of champagne, and the hushed chatter of high society. Everything was perfect. Oh, how Sophia had pictured this moment. Her engagement party, the night she'd been dreaming of forever. She stood near the center of the room, her fingers trembling as they clutched a glass of sparkling wine. Her heart raced with excitement. Tonight, in front of all these people, she and Daniel would announce their engagement. Could it get any more magical? But where was Daniel? Her fiancé was late again. Not that it was a big deal. He was always busy, a rising star in the business world, sharp as a tack and ambitious as ever. He'd show up for her, right? He always did. Sophia smoothed the delicate lace on her pale blue dress, stealing a nervous glance at her parents. They were deep in conversation with a group of influential guests, their faces glowing with pride. They'd orchestrated this engagement, making sure Daniel was the perfect match for their family's legacy. Sophia sighed, taking another sip of champagne. Why was he taking so long? Then, bam! The ballroom doors swung open. Every head turned. Sophia's heart stopped dead. There was Daniel, but he wasn't alone. He was hand in hand with another woman. Whispers erupted like wildfire through the crowd. A waiter froze, champagne spilling all over the tablecloth in a clumsy mess. Cameras from the press swiveled, capturing every second of the scandal unfolding. Sophia couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It was Lisa Carter, the daughter of Daniel's biggest business partner. She looked stunning, her sleek red gown hugging her like a second skin, her lips curled into a smug smirk. And Daniel? He just stood there, holding her hand, cool as ice. What was happening? Sophia's voice barely escaped her lips, a shaky whisper lost in the thick tension. Daniel? He stopped a few feet away, locking eyes with her. Then, with a chilling indifference that made her skin crawl, he said, "Sophia, I can't marry you." The words slammed into her like a punch to the gut. The room went dead silent, her breath caught in her throat. "What are you saying?" she gasped. Daniel exhaled, like this was just some minor inconvenience. "Let's be real, Sophia. You've got nothing to offer me." Nothing? How could he say that? Her stomach churned. "I don't understand." "You proposed to me," she cried, her voice trembling. Daniel's lips twisted into something cruel. Not quite a smile. Did I? Or was it just a deal our families cooked up? Her vision blurred with tears. "I needed your family's name for leverage," he went on, his words slicing deeper. "But now, I've got better options." Lisa let out a soft, mocking chuckle, squeezing his arm. "He means me," she purred. Sophia felt like she might throw up. "This is a joke, right?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Daniel's eyes turned to stone. "I never loved you, Sophia," he said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You were just a stepping stone, and I don't need you anymore." How could he be so cold? A gasp shattered the silence. Somewhere, a glass crashed to the floor. Sophia's hands shook as she stared at him, searching desperately for any sign this wasn't real. Was this really happening? But Daniel just smirked, and Lisa tilted her head, her voice dripping with fake pity. "You're a sweet girl, Sophia, but come on. You don't belong in Daniel's world. You never did." Sophia's body went ice cold. 100 pairs of eyes bored into her, waiting for her to break. She was crumbling, and they all knew it. Then her mother's voice sliced through the suffocating silence. "Sophia!" Sophia turned, her heart clinging to a shred of hope. Would her mother defend her, just this once? But the look on her mother's face wasn't concern, it was pure disgust. "You have humiliated us," her mother hissed, her voice low and sharp as a dagger. Sophia's mouth fell open. "I didn't," she stammered. "If you can't secure a husband with wealth and power," her mother spat, "you are no longer a daughter of mine." The words were a final, brutal blow. Sophia staggered back, her world shattering around her. Her mother turned away, leaving her alone in a sea of judgmental faces. How could her own family abandon her like this? The streets of Manhattan were merciless at night, especially for a woman wandering alone in an evening gown that felt like it belonged to someone else. Sophia's heels clicked against the pavement, each step a sharp, mocking reminder of her pain. Her feet throbbed, the delicate shoes cutting into her skin. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, Daniel's cold voice echoed, "I never loved you." Her mother's words stabbed right after, "You are no longer a daughter of mine." A shaky breath escaped her as she stumbled forward, the crisp night air stinging her lungs. The diamond engagement ring she'd once worn so proudly was gone, abandoned on the ballroom's marble floor. She had nothing, no fiancé, no family, no future. What was left for her now? She didn't know how long she wandered, lost in her grief. But eventually, a warm, flickering glow caught her eye, a small, dimly lit bar. It wasn't her kind of place at all, too old, too quiet, too gritty, but right now, she didn't care. She needed a drink, something to numb the pain. The bartender barely looked at her as she slid onto a worn-out stool, her elegant dress absurdly out of place against the peeling wood and neon lights. "Whiskey?" she muttered. "Neat." The bartender raised an eyebrow but poured the glass without a word. Sophia took a sip, wincing as the burn tore down her throat. Good. She wanted it to hurt, to match the ache in her heart. "You don't seem like the whiskey type," a voice said, smooth, deep, laced with curiosity. Sophia turned, and there he was, a man a few stools away. He wasn't like the polished men she knew. No fancy suit, no flashy watch, just a plain dark jacket over a gray t-shirt. His hair a bit messy, like he didn't care about appearances. But his eyes? Oh, they were something else deep, unreadable, like they held secrets she'd never unravel. "Maybe I wasn't before," Sophia mumbled, taking another sip. "But people change, don't they?" He tilted his head, studying her. "Rough night?" She let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, you have no idea. Maybe it was the whiskey, maybe it was the pain. But," Sophia started talking. She spilled everything: the engagement, the betrayal, the humiliation. Why was she telling a stranger all this? Maybe because he wouldn't judge her like everyone else had. He listened, never interrupting, his dark eyes steady and knowing. When she finished, he leaned forward, elbows on the bar. "If you need a husband," he said, casual as anything, "I'm right here." Sophia blinked, then burst out laughing. "You?" she teased, her eyes sparkling with drunken amusement. "You want to marry me?" He smiled, slow and lazy. "Why not? You need a husband, and I've got nothing better going on." It was insane completely, utterly crazy, but something stirred. in Sophia's chest. Was it the alcohol, the heartbreak, or the fact that, for the first time that night, she felt like she could choose her own path? She raised her glass in a mock toast, grinning. "All right, stranger, let's get married." Sophia woke with a pounding headache and a sinking feeling that something was terribly wrong. These weren't her silky penthouse sheets. The air smelled of coffee and something unfamiliar. Then she saw a cheap silver ring on her left hand. Her stomach plummeted. Oh no, what had she done? She turned her head, heart racing, and there he was, the stranger from the bar, Liam, lying beside her, shirtless, one arm lazily draped over his chest, breathing steady. Sophia gasped. Had she really married him? She sat on the edge of a worn-out couch, staring at the peeling paint on the walls of a tiny apartment. The dim light cast long shadows across creaky wooden floors. This was her new home? How had she gone from marble floors and silk sheets to this cluttered, cramped space with a kitchen barely big enough for one? From Sophia Davenport, glamorous fiancé of a tycoon, to whoever she was now, she glanced at the silver ring, half expecting it to disappear and end this nightmare. But it stayed, mocking her. Movement in the kitchenette snapped her out of it. Liam, her husband, stood by the stove, wearing only sweatpants, flipping something in a pan. The smell of buttery eggs and toast made her stomach growl. Betraying her, he glanced over, catching her staring. "Morning, wifey," he said with a smirk. Sophia groaned, burying her face in her hands. "Please tell me this is a bad dream," she mumbled. Liam chuckled. "Nope, it's real. You married a stranger. Congrats." She peeked through her fingers. "And you're just fine with this?" He shrugged, setting 2 plates of eggs and toast on a tiny dining table. "I'm a man of my word. You needed a husband. I delivered." Sophia shook her head, exasperated. "This is beyond insane." Liam slid into the chair across from her, his eyes steady. "Eat first. Then we can talk about your regrets, okay?" She glared but grabbed her fork, too hungry to argue. The next few days hit her like a freight train. She had nothing, no family money, no designer dresses, no maids to clean up after her. She had to wash dishes, do laundry, and, worst of all, budget. She'd never budgeted in her life. The first time she went grocery shopping with Liam, she reached for a $12 bottle of organic water. He raised an eyebrow and swapped it for a 99-cent one. "You're not a Davenport anymore, princess," he said, tossing it into the cart. Sophia huffed, humiliated but silent. It was frustrating, humbling, and yet freeing. For the first time, no one expected her to be perfect. No one was watching, judging her every move. Could this be a fresh start? Oh, and then there was Liam. He was nothing like the men Sophia had known, those flashy types who tossed money around like confetti, who judged everyone by their bank accounts. Liam? He was a breath of fresh air. Sure, he teased her mercilessly, but he never let her flounder when she burned their dinner to a crisp yep. A total kitchen disaster. He just laughed, his eyes twinkling, and ordered takeout like it was no big deal. When she tripped over a loose floorboard in their creaky apartment, nearly face-planting, he was there in a flash, catching her with a grin. And one rainy evening, when the power went out and Sophia sat curled up on the couch, feeling like the world had forgotten her, Liam didn't say a word. He just grabbed a cozy blanket, draped it over her shoulders, and sat beside her in the dark, his presence warm and steady. He didn't pity her, thank goodness. He just got her. Slowly, so slowly, Sophia started to wonder, maybe she wasn't as lost as she thought? Could this be the start of something real? Sophia had always been proud of her knack for reading people, growing up in high society. She'd honed that skill like a blade, Spotting the tiny tells the way someone stood a bit too stiffly, the faint hesitation in a liar's voice, or that greedy glint in their eyes when they wanted something. But Liam? Oh, he was a puzzle she couldn't crack. At first, she'd pegged him as just a regular guy, scraping by paycheck to paycheck, unbothered by the glitz and glamour of her old world. But little things kept nagging at her. Was he really who he seemed? It all started with the wine. One evening, Liam strolled in with a bottle of red nothing fancy, just a random pick from the corner store. Sophia, raised in a world where people argued over vintage versus terroir like it was life or death, smirked. "Let me guess," she teased. "You're a beer guy, right?" Liam just chuckled, pouring himself a glass without a word. Then, to her absolute shock, he swirled the wine like a pro, held it up to the light to check its color, took a deep sniff, and sipped it like some fancy sommelier. Sophia's jaw dropped. "What was that?" she blurted, pointing at his glass. Liam raised an eyebrow, all innocent. "What was what? That? That was legit wine tasting technique," she exclaimed. He smirked, infuriatingly calm. "Maybe I just like wine." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "Regular guys don't do that, do they?" Then came the car incident. A few days later, as they strolled past the glitzy luxury car dealership, Sophia tossed out a playful question. If you could have any car in the world, what would it be? Liam didn't even pause. "Aston Martin DBS Superleggera," he said, "cool as a cucumber, 12 engine, 715 horsepower, top speed of 211 mph. Sophia stopped dead in her tracks, staring at him. Who was this guy? Most men she knew couldn't name a car like that, let alone rattle off its specs like they were reading a manual. Liam caught her stunned look and shrugged. "What? I like cars." She let it go, but the questions kept piling up. What was he hiding? Then came the real shocker. One evening, while Liam was in the shower, Sophia was rummaging through a small wooden drawer in their kitchen table, hunting for a pen. That's when she saw it, a thick stack of crisp $100 bills. Her heart stopped. Wasn't Liam supposed to be broke? They pinched pennies for groceries, lived in a rundown apartment with peeling paint, and only splurged on takeout for special occasions. So where the heck did this come from? Her fingers trembled as she picked up the stack, the smooth bills feeling foreign in her hands. This wasn't pocket change. There had to be at least $10,000 sitting there. Before she could wrap her head around it, Liam's voice cut through the silence. "Looking for something?" Sophia jumped, nearly dropping the cash. There he was, leaning against the doorway, a towel slung around his neck, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Where did this come from?" she demanded, her voice shaking. Liam just walked over, took the stack from her hands, and slid it back into the drawer, closing it with a soft thud. No explanation, nothing. Sophia stared at him, her mind racing. "Liam?" He finally met her gaze, that maddening smirk playing on his lips. "Does it matter?" he asked, casual as ever. "Of course it matters," she snapped. "We live like we can barely afford rent. But you've got stacks of cash just lying around." Liam shrugged, infuriatingly calm. "I don't like wasting money. That's not an answer," she cried. He chuckled, stepping closer, his voice dropping. "Didn't you marry me because you loved me for who I am, not what I have?" Sophia's breath caught. That's what she'd said, wasn't it? That money didn't matter, that she didn't care about wealth. But now, standing there, knowing he was hiding something, her stomach twisted with unease, Liam gently lifted her chin, his touch soft, his voice quieter now. "Trust me, Sophia," he murmured. "Everything will make sense soon enough." But would it? Could she trust him? Her mind churned with doubts. The signs were everywhere. Liam never seemed stressed about money. Despite their shoestring budget, he tossed out car specs like a collector, handled wine like a pro, and now this hidden stash of cash. A chilling thought crept in. Was Liam caught up in something shady? Illegal, even. The floor creaked as she shifted her weight, and Liam's head snapped up. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the air thick with tension. Then, slowly, he closed the drawer, his fingers gripping the edge, his jaw tight, his face a mask. What was he hiding? Sophia summoned her courage. Where did that money come from? She demanded. Liam sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. It's not what you think, Sophia. Her chest tightened. Then, explain it to me, she pleaded. He hesitated just for a second, but it was enough to make her heart race. Are you, she swallowed hard, are you in some kind of trouble? His gaze darkened. No. Then why are you hiding thousands of dollars? Her voice rose, frantic. You act like we can't afford groceries, but you've got a fortune in a drawer. What the hell is going on? Liam exhaled sharply, frustration flashing across his face. Sophia, just trust me, trust you, she scoffed, her emotions boiling over. How can I trust you when you're keeping secrets? His eyes flashed with something sharp. I could ask you the same thing. You married me thinking I was just some broke guy, and that was fine, right? But now, the second you see money, you assume the worst. Sophia's mouth opened, but Liam cut her off. You think I'm a criminal? He snapped. She flinched, guilt flooding her. She hadn't said it outright, but had she thought it? Liam shook his head, his voice dropping, raw and pained. I thought you saw me for who I was, not what I had or didn't have. Sophia's throat tightened. I do, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Liam's jaw clenched, his hands balling into fists. Before he turned away, then act like it, he muttered, storming out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there, more confused than ever. What had she done? The next day, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something huge. Liam had secrets, and she had to uncover them. That afternoon, while sorting through old books in their apartment, she found a yellowed newspaper clipping tucked between the pages. Her pulse raced as she unfolded it. It was a business article from 3 years ago, and there in the center was a photo of Liam, or someone who looked exactly like him. But the name below wasn't Liam. It was Liam Alexander Sterling. Her fingers shook as she read the headline, Billionaire Heir Disappears Without a Trace. The mystery of Liam Sterling. Her blood ran cold. Who the hell had she married? The farmer's market was bursting with life, the air filled with the warm scent of fresh bread, ripe fruit, and roasted coffee beans. Sophia and Liam wove through the crowd, their little Saturday ritual of picking up produce and playfully arguing over whether they really needed another loaf of artisan sourdough. Sophia had come to cherish these mornings so peaceful, so real. She reached for a bundle of strawberries when a voice sharp, mocking, and all too familiar sliced through the air. Well, look who it is. Sophia froze. No, it couldn't be. She turned, and there they were, Daniel, in his smug, tailored suit, and Lisa, her arm possessively looped through his. Sophia's stomach twisted. Liam, sensing her tension, rested a gentle hand on her lower back. Friends of yours? He asked, his tone light but with a subtle edge. Sophia exhaled shakily. Something like that, she muttered. Daniel smirked, his eyes gleaming with malice. I gotta say, Sophia, I almost didn't recognize you without your designer dresses and diamond bling. Lisa let out a cruel laugh, eyeing Liam up and down with a sneer. And this must be your husband, she said, her voice dripping with mockery. Liam stayed quiet, but Sophia felt him tense beside her. Daniel crossed his arms, clearly relishing the moment. It's honestly pathetic, Sophia. You used to be somebody, and now you're stuck with a guy who can't even afford decent shoes. How dare he? Sophia's blood boiled. Liam had been nothing but kind, patient, and loving, and here was Daniel, with his shallow, money-obsessed arrogance, daring to mock him. She lifted her chin, her voice steady and fierce. "At least he loves me," she shot back. Daniel's smirk flickered, but he laughed, cold and cutting. "Love? Oh, Sophia, that's adorable. But let's be real, love doesn't pay the bills." Lisa leaned into him, her red lips curling into a wicked smirk. "Yeah, what does your husband have besides that ratty old jacket?" Sophia's fingers clenched into a fist, but before she could fire back, Liam spoke. "I have enough," he said smoothly, his voice calm but his eyes. Oh, those eyes. They were dark, calculating, like he was in on a joke no one else understood. Then he smiled, a small, knowing smile that seemed to hold a secret big enough to shake the earth. Daniel frowned, sensing something off for the first time. Lisa just scoffed. "You're delusional." But Liam tilted his head, that smile never fading, and Sophia, standing beside him, felt a thrill. Was the game about to change in a way Daniel and Lisa could never imagine? The apartment was so quiet. You could hear the soft ticking of that old clock on the wall, each second pounding in Sophia's ears. She sat on the couch, her heart racing like a runaway train, her hands shaking as she clutched the letter she'd just found. The name on it seared into her mind. Liam Alexander Sterling. Not Liam Carter, not Liam Smith, Liam Alexander Sterling. Oh, she knew that name. Everyone in the business world did. The Sterling Empire was a titan, with its fingers in real estate, tech, and luxury brands. But 3 years ago, after a messy family scandal, Liam Sterling, the sole heir, had vanished without a trace. And now, here he was, in their tiny, rundown apartment, acting like some ordinary guy. Sophia's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a secret, it was a lie. How could he do this to her? Liam strolled through the front door a few minutes later, tossing his keys onto the table with that easy, carefree vibe. He flashed her a smile, like everything was perfectly fine, but everything was wrong. "You're home early," he said, shrugging off his jacket. "I was thinking pasta tonight, unless you're craving something else." Sophia didn't budge. Her fingers gripped the letter so tightly it crinkled, the sound sharp in the silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling. "Liam Alexander Sterling." The words hung in the air, heavy, suffocating. Liam froze, his hands stalling mid-motion. Slowly, his eyes met hers, no confusion, no shock, just a quiet, knowing look that made her heart sink. What was he hiding? Sophia swallowed hard, her throat tight. "That's your real name, isn't it?" Liam exhaled softly, running a hand through his hair, his face unreadable. "Where'd you find that?" he asked, calm as ever. "That's not the point, Liam," she snapped, jumping to her feet, her emotions spilling over like a dam bursting. "The point is, you lied to me. You let me believe you were just some regular guy when you're actually a billionaire." He finished her sentence, a small, infuriating smirk tugging at his lips. Sophia's heart twisted. "This isn't funny," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" Liam sighed, leaning against the counter, his arms folded. "Because I didn't want you to love me for my money," he said, his voice so simple, so raw, it stopped her cold. Sophia froze, her breath catching. "You think I haven't seen it before?" he went on, his tone steady but heavy. "People faking care, women eyeing me like I was a trophy, not a person." His eyes darkened, shadowed with memories. I had to know what it felt like to be loved for May, not my bank account. Sophia's breath hitched. His words cut deep, slicing through the world. She'd known a world where money was everything, where people married for status and power. She'd almost married Daniel, a man who saw her as nothing but a stepping stone. How had she been so blind? Now, standing before her was Liam, a man who'd walked away from unimaginable wealth to find something real, and he'd chosen her. A tear slipped down her cheek. Hot and unstoppable, Liam stepped closer, his voice softening to a murmur. "I never meant to hurt you, Sophia," he said, his words wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "But now that you know the truth, I need to ask." He reached out, gently cupping her cheek, his thumb brushing away her tear. "Do you still love me?" he asked, his voice so quiet, so vulnerable. Sophia's heart pounded. For the first time in her life, money didn't matter. He did. Oh, how he mattered. The rooftop was a dream, bathed in the golden glow of fairy lights, the soft hum of jazz floating through the air. A gentle evening breeze carried the sweet scent of fresh roses, mingling with the warm flicker of candlelight on an elegantly set table. Sophia stared, her jaw dropping. Was this real? The scene was breathtaking, like something out of a fairy tale. She turned to Liam, who stood beside her, hands in his pockets, watching her with that quiet amusement that always made her heart skip. "You did all this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Liam smirked. "I had a little help." Sophia let out a breathless laugh, shaking her head. "You know, most regular guys don't just whip up rooftop venues and private chefs." Liam chuckled, his eyes twinkling, guilty as charged. He took her hand, his touch warm and steady, leading her to the table and pulling out a chair for her before sitting across from her. The dinner was pure perfection, delicate bites of gourmet dishes, a bottle of rich, velvety wine that Liam poured with expert precision. But even with all this beauty around her, Sophia's heart swirled with emotions. How could she reconcile the Liam she loved with the billionaire heir he really was? "You're quiet," Liam said, his gaze sharp, watching her closely. Sophia sighed, setting down her fork. "I'm just still processing everything," she admitted, her voice soft. Was she ready for his world? Liam nodded, like he understood her completely. "Because of the money?" Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "It's not that I care about wealth, Liam," she said, her voice earnest. "It's just your world, the one you left behind. It's so different from mine. What if I don't fit in?" Liam leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "You think I care about any of that?" Sophia opened her mouth to answer, but Liam stood up and then, oh my God, he dropped to one knee. Her breath caught, her heart hammering. Liam pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and flipped it open, revealing a stunning diamond ring that sparkled like a star under the rooftop lights. Her pulse raced. "Sophia," he said, his voice steady but brimming with emotion, "I don't want to be just the guy you married in a drunken haze." He took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "I want to be the man you choose, the one who stands by your side, not because of some crazy night, but because you want me there." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Liam took her hand, his thumb gently stroking her skin. "Forget the money," he murmured. "Forget the name. I'm just Liam. You're Liam." A tear rolled down her cheek. Deep down, she'd always known he was hers. She nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes," she whispered, her heart bursting. Liam's face lit up like the sun, and in one swift motion, he slid the ring onto her finger before pulling her into his arms. Just like that, she wasn't lost anymore. She'd found her home. Oh, how had she gotten so lucky? The grand ballroom of the Sterling Foundation glowed with warm golden light, soft music blending with the hum of elegant conversation. Guests glided around, clinking champagne glasses in celebration. This wasn't just another high society bash. This was Sophia and Liam's dream come true. Their foundation, dedicated to helping women who'd been abandoned or mistreated, was thriving. Sophia knew that pain all too well, and now she had a chance to give hope to others who'd stood where she once did. Could life get any more meaningful? Liam stood beside her, his hand resting lightly on her lower back, his steady presence grounding her. As she smiled at the guests, she'd never dreamed her life could be this full, not just rich, but purposeful. Then, a voice sharp and all too familiar made her freeze. "Well, isn't this a surprise?" Sophia turned, and there they were, Daniel and Lisa. But they weren't the same. Daniel's smug arrogance was gone, his once perfect suit looking worn, his smirk replaced by bitterness. Lisa, who used to drip with luxury, stood beside him, her face uneasy, like she was standing on quicksand. What had happened to them? Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Daniel," she said coolly. He forced a smile, but his eyes betrayed desperation. "You've certainly moved up in the world," he said, his voice tight. Lisa scoffed. "Enjoy it while it lasts." Sophia didn't flinch. She tilted her head. "I heard about your father's company, Lisa. Tough break." Liam, silent until now, spoke up, his voice calm but firm. "Business is unpredictable. One wrong move, and it all falls apart." Lisa's jaw clenched, and Daniel's face darkened. They'd once mocked Sophia, but now they were the ones scrambling. Sophia squeezed Liam's hand and smiled. "You know what, Daniel? I should actually thank you." He frowned. "For what?" "For leaving me that night," she said, her voice steady, radiant with confidence. "If you hadn't, I wouldn't have found the best decision of my life." She turned to Liam, her heart overflowing. "Him." Daniel stood speechless. Lisa huffed, dragging him away into the crowd. Sophia laughed softly, shaking her head. "Poetic justice, don't you think?" Liam smirked. "I call it karma." The sun poured golden rays over the private beach resort, waves lapping gently at the shore. Sophia sat under a big sun umbrella, watching two tiny figures, a boy and a girl, dart toward the water, giggling as Liam chased them. Their twins, Leo and Liana. Her heart swelled. Once, she'd lost everything, but now she had a family, a purpose, a love that defied all odds. Liam jogged back, the kids clinging to his legs, laughing. He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "Happy?" he murmured. Sophia smiled, grabbing his hand. "More than I ever thought possible." She gazed at her family, at the life they'd built, and whispered, "You were the best decision I ever made." And so, Sophia's journey shows that sometimes life's worst heartbreaks lead to the most incredible blessings. She lost it all, her wealth, her status, her family, but in that loss, she found true love, discovered herself, and built a life richer than she'd ever imagined. Liam didn't need his fortune to win her heart. He just needed to be himself. Together, they turned pain into purpose, creating a legacy of kindness that would lift up countless others. And in the end, wasn't that the greatest wealth of all?